In today's breaking story, the New York Times has just dropped a brutal bombshell on Donald Trump, and believe me, this is enough to leave any administration panicking. Now, as Donald Trump tries time and time again to distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein, things are only getting worse. For one, more and more allegations are surfacing regarding how close the Trump family truly was with Epstein.
Ivana Trump was like her best friend.
And with
Ivana.
yeah, with Ivana, then describe that. She'd be there. How
That
often?
was creepy. So at the time, Ivana had this. She was doing QVC, selling jewelry, right, online. I mean, on TV. She was like a QVC queen. Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was always hanging out with Epstein, and Ivana was always hanging out with Ghislaine.
Right.
And Ivana would say, "We're going to go pick up Ivana, or Ivana's going to come," and we'd ride in the car with her. And I remember one occasion where Ghislaine's like, "I have to get out right now," and she went and got a number from a child, and I saw in a uniform.
Yeah. And
everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody who surrounded them knew exactly what they were doing.
And it's fair to say at this point, America is furious with how Trump has mishandled the Epstein files.
Jessica, last weekend we spoke about it. Interest in the Epstein files and the Epstein case is sky high, and the American public does not trust what the government is selling them. What are we talking about here? Is the government hiding Epstein's alleged client list? Get this, 69% of Americans agree that the federal government is, in fact, hiding Epstein's alleged client list versus just 6% who say that they are not. And get this, a majority of Republicans and Democrats do, in fact, agree on this issue that the government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list. You can never get a majority of Republicans and Democrats to agree on anything, but they do agree on this particular issue. And perhaps not so surprisingly, you get a plurality of Democrats and Republicans agreeing that they are dissatisfied with the amount of information that the government has released so far. What are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about, if we look at Republicans and independents who lean Republican, 43% are dissatisfied with the amount of information released so far, compared to, get this, just 4% of Republicans who are in fact satisfied with the amount of information released so far by the federal government when it comes to the Epstein case. And we look over here on this side of the screen among Democrats, get this, 60% of Democrats and independent leaning Democrats are in fact dissatisfied.
But now, in today's top story, the New York Times has just dropped a brutal bombshell on Donald Trump. Take a look at this. Just when Donald Trump thought the Epstein scandal might fade into the background, the New York Times has thrown it back into the spotlight. And this time, it's worse than ever. Over the weekend, the Times dropped a damning expose titled "Inside the Long Friendship Between Trump and Epstein," detailing a 15-year relationship filled with lavish parties, private jet rides, and disturbing allegations, one that flies directly in the face of Trump's repeated claims that he barely knew Jeffrey Epstein. Among the most shocking revelations, in 1992, Trump threw a so-called calendar girl competition party at Mar-a-Lago, and Epstein was the only other guest. The man who arranged the event, Florida businessman George Haraney, said he was stunned when he saw the guest list. He recalled telling Trump, "Donald, this is supposed to be a party with VIPs. You're telling me it's you and Epstein?" But that night turned even darker. Haraney's then-girlfriend and business partner, Jill Harth, later accused Trump of sexually assaulting her at the party. According to her lawsuit, Trump forcibly kissed and groped her, then restrained her from leaving. A 22-year-old contestant at the event also claimed Trump crawled into her bed uninvited later that night. This wasn't an isolated incident. The Times documents multiple accounts of young women who encountered Trump during his time with Epstein, including former Sports Illustrated model Stacey Williams, who says Trump groped her in his office after Epstein introduced them. She described it as being treated like a piece of meat, and later wondered if she had been part of some game between the two men. There's also Maria Farmer, an Epstein victim who recalled Trump eyeing her during a visit to Epstein's New York office, only for Epstein to warn him, "She's not for you." And Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most well-known accusers, was recruited while working at Mar-a-Lago. She said she trusted Epstein and Maxwell at first, only to be trafficked to powerful men over the next 2 years. Her tragic death by suicide earlier this year only deepens the urgency to understand the full truth. Despite the flood of damning details, Trump has never faced criminal charges related to Epstein and has continued to deny all wrongdoing. He insists he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes and claims he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. But photos, party footage, and court documents tell a different story, one of proximity, complicity, and power. The Times also reports that Trump once wrote Epstein a birthday note in 2003 featuring a sketch of a naked woman and a reference to a secret they shared. Trump has denied writing it and is now suing the Wall Street Journal for libel over the claim. Perhaps most ironic of all, Trump once weaponized Epstein's crimes to attack Bill Clinton. Now it's Trump whose past is catching up with him. Even his own MAGA base, after being promised Epstein client lists and bombshell revelations, is beginning to revolt. Some of Trump's closest allies, including Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, promised answers. Instead, they've offered silence. And now Trump's tone has shifted from deflection to disdain. Just this month, he snapped at reporters, saying, "Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years." But with new victims, new photos, and new documents emerging, one thing is clear: this story isn't going anywhere. And neither, it seems, is the growing mountain of evidence tying Donald Trump closer than ever to a man he now pretends he barely knew. Yeah, so long story short, Donald Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files. Now, all of a sudden, conveniently, there are no files. And I think I know why.